Hello, welcome to our meeting today. I have the pleasure to be here today with Dan Brulé. He is one of the most renowned breath worker of today, known worldwide, with a big following of people in classes, workshops, seminars, on Zoom and live all over the world. My name is Michelle Pacheco. I am also a trainer and a therapist on breath work and meditation. And I had the honor to meet Dan Brulé about 14 years ago. And I'm so proud to be with him here today and get to the juicy part, so to speak, of how it's important for us to breathe and the importance of breath work applied in a proper way, in a certain way in our daily life to enhance our potential and our well-being. So that being said, Dan, thank you so much for being here today with us. It's an honor. And I would like to, for the beginning, to ask you a question that is on the lips of every single person that I know, and I start talking to them about breath work. People already say that I know how to breathe, I'm breathing. So as an introduction to this program, what would you like to say about the importance of breathing in a proper way? And do we breathe properly or not?
Yeah, well, you can go weeks without food and days without water, but you can't go without breath for very long. So that shows you how important it is compared to other things that we think are important. And every biological organism, in order to survive, it needs to eliminate waste. Not only does it need to eat and get energy, but it needs to eliminate metabolic waste. Well, 70% of our metabolic waste, the toxins in our body, are eliminated through breathing. So if your breathing is inhibited, if your breathing is dysfunctional, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. You're constantly making your system have to work twice as hard to keep up and to catch up. So conscious breathing is used by Olympic athletes. It's used by military special forces, corporate executives, anybody, people who work in high stakes life and death situations. They're trained to breathe. Mm-hmm. But everybody has their high stakes situations, an important conversation with your teenager, an important presentation at work, a stressful event. Life has so many challenges. And by using our breath, we can draw the energy we need to meet the challenges of life. And by using our breath, we can release and vent stress and tension, anxiety. And so it just, if you're interested in physical well-being, psychological well-being, emotional well-being, then breathing is the very first thing that you should turn to, because it's right under our nose. We overlook it, we underestimate it. We're looking for complicated solutions and difficult things, processes, when something as simple as breathing turns out to be one of the most powerful things that we can do. And people aren't taught to breathe unless they work in those high stakes life and death situations. And so my job, I'm a missionary for the breath. I love turning people on to the power and the potential of breathing. I've traveled to 70 countries in the last 50 years. I've had my hands on more than 250,000 people. And so even somebody slow and stupid like me is bound to learn something over those years. And I love sharing those things that are really important and that really make a difference.
Yes, I have to say that working with you in the past 14 years, I noticed and I've learned from you so much about this importance of breathing and observing people. To your point, I realize that sometimes we forget how to breathe and we are blocked. And I would like you to tell us in a few words now, what happens when we don't breathe properly and we are feeling tensed, stressed, blocked? How is this affecting our psychological pattern of our behavior in general, actually, our mental capacity, our emotional capacity. And how are all this affected by the improper breathing, which many of us don't know that it's improper. We think we are right the way we breathe.
Well, you know, we take on habits and patterns very often under emotionally stressful times. If I want to be invisible, I don't want the teacher to call on me, I'm going to hold my breath. And if I'm not allowed to cry or to laugh, I'm going to hold my breath. If I'm afraid of what's going to come out of me, I'm going to hold my breath. And so there are situations in life where we hold our breath, and then it becomes a pattern, and we're holding our breath all the time. You know, it's like we have two branches of our nervous system, the sympathetic branch and the parasympathetic branch. And most people, it's like having their foot on the gas pedal constantly, you know, and, you know, life is just so hectic and so crazy. And so we're over breathing to try to keep up with all this stuff. And even when we're at rest, we're still breathing too quickly. We're still over breathing. And so habits rule our lives. And so it's easy to take on negative or dysfunctional breathing habits that might have helped us during a crisis. Don't let myself look scared. I need to hold my breath. I don't want to take up too much space. I don't want to cry right now, or it's impolite to laugh. And so I learned to hold my breath, and pretty soon, little strategies that help us during emergency moments become the habits of our system. And so then you need to do some actual unlearning, some training to bring your breathing back into balance. And what a difference it makes. You know, every emotional state, every psychological state, every physiological state has a corresponding breathing pattern. When I'm afraid and upset and angry, my breathing has a certain quality or pattern. When I'm relaxed and calm and peaceful, it has a very different quality. And so it's a two-way street. Every time our state changes, our breathing pattern changes. And every time we change our breathing pattern, we can change our state. So by getting control of our breath, we get control of our chemistry, we get control of our focus, we get control of our arousal, get control of your blood pressure. It's pretty powerful, but it's not taught. Well, it's being taught in schools now. Finally, it's being taught in schools, but not enough.
Yeah, I know in the United States we started to teach this in school, but not everywhere. And I think the aspect that is very important in the school system for parents and teachers is the stress, dealing with stress, as you mentioned. And it's very important because I know the stress, it can be applied up so deep down inside of us to the level of every single cell. The cell is holding a memory of the stress and is affecting our entire body, behavior, and health. So,
and it's the fight or flight response. It's like it's constantly being triggered. And so, you know, you open the newspaper, another war, another horrible catastrophe, another whatever. And so it's like our nervous system is constantly being activated. And so we need to do conscious practices to bring our nervous system back into balance. And that's why we use the breath.
Especially for parents. I remember I'm a parent. My daughter is not little anymore, but I know how parents, every time there is a news about a disease, something's happening with the school system, something happening in the world, immediately you go into the stress action, thinking what's going to happen to my child, what am I going to do with or for my child. So any advice for the parents?
Just like the instructions on the airplane. First put your own oxygen mask on and then put the one on your child. So we need to get a handle on our own arousal, our own anxiety. We need to focus on our breathing so we can think clearly. And then we can do something for our children. So first we need to model what it is that we want our children to do.
Have to be an example for our children.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how we learn breathing patterns. We unconsciously model the people around us. And if the people around us are anxious and tense, we become anxious and tense because we're just picking up the same habits. So first take care of yourself, you know, and that, you know, the latest study One of the latest studies comes from Stanford University, Uberman's laboratory, and the study is it's called cyclical sighing. So basically, you take a sigh of relief, and then you give yourself another one, and you give yourself another one, and you do that for 5 minutes. It has more benefits than any meditation technique they've tested, any relaxation exercises they've tested, and any other complicated breathing exercise. A simple sigh of relief.
Yes.
You take a long breath in through the nose, and then exaggerate the exhale. And already you're doing something to your chemistry, you're doing something to your nervous system, a simple sigh of relief, and everybody already knows how to do it.
Exactly.
So, it's nothing technical, nothing complicated. You just exaggerate it, put passion, put enthusiasm into it, make it dramatic. And you do that a few times, and you alter your chemistry, your cognitive abilities kind of get enhanced. It triggers the relaxation response, and so you're in a better state in just a few simple sighs of relief.
Yeah. If you can say a few words about clarity. How is we gain clarity of action as people, as parents, as teachers, and at any level in our society, because as you mentioned, the stress, the pressure, the anxiety that is built around us, and we don't have clarity of making a right decision for ourselves.
I mean, everyone needs to develop mindfulness. Conscious breathing is a mindfulness practice. You become conscious of your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions. Become conscious of the effect that your words have. We need to wake up and become more aware of the things that we're doing unconsciously. And automatically that improves the clarity of our thinking. We're not reacting. We can consciously respond. So as soon as the more conscious you become of your breathing, the more conscious you become of everything. The more aware you are of your breath, the more aware you are of what you're thinking about, your reactions, everything. So it begins with breath mindfulness practice. Developing clarity begins with focusing on your breath and noticing details in your breathing. Already you're waking up your cognitive abilities, you're waking up your awareness capacity, and it puts you in a better state to communicate, to understand, to be able to listen, to be present. Yeah. Very simple. And that's why people overlook it and underestimate it. They go, oh, breathing is so simple, huh? What can it, blah, blah, blah. No, because it's so simple, because it's so basic, that's exactly why it's the most powerful thing.
It's like one of those things, it's free, it's happening already.
If it's not complicated and expensive, what good can it be?
It's already happening, and we have the feeling that we know already how to breathe, and this is where the trick is. We have a topic that I would like to touch here. We kind of talked about it, but if you can say a few more words. What happens if we neglect ourselves, our state, and we don't breathe correctly? What happens in the long run, in time?
Well, there's this saying about muscles in exercise. If you don't use it, you lose it. And there was a very famous heart study, one of the most famous heart studies in the United States, the Framingham Heart Study. Small city in Massachusetts, Framingham, Massachusetts. And the study went over years, decades, following a group of people through life and measuring lifestyle factors and habits and nutrition and so on. And there was a lot of conflicting data. You had people who smoke and drink and they're still alive and the other people are dead. There are those exceptions. But the one thing there was no exception on was related to respiratory capacity. And they discovered that the average person reaches their peak respiratory capacity between 25 and 27 years old. And then for every decade of life, you lose 10 to 15% of your respiratory capacity. So by the time you're 50, 60 years old, you've lost 40, 50% of your respiratory capacity. Incredible. So unless you're doing something to maintain your respiratory capacity, it's guaranteed what's going to happen to your life force over the course of your life. And one of the beautiful things I love about breath work is that most breathing is like the pilot light in an oven. The average person is breathing enough to survive, but you can't cook anything with it. And if you want to really excel at something, if you really want to be a peak performer or really, creative, then you need to turn your breathing up, turn up the life force, and use your breath to release tensions, release blockages. Learn to use your breath to energize yourself when you have something important to do. And so it doesn't take a lot of practice, but it takes some practice because habits run our system. And if you have a habit of holding your breath when you're under stress, you're getting in your own way. If you have a habit of over-breathing when you get anxious, you're making the situation worse. And so when we become conscious of our breathing, and when we regulate our breathing, we regulate our emotional state, we regulate our mental state.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as you're speaking now, I remember an example where I just met you about 1 year after I met you, I think. I was on a hike and I was with a small group of people, including children, and everybody was tired. Like after maybe 20, 30 minutes, because it was a deep hike, everybody was out of breath. And I heard you in my ear, breathe, Michelle. So I started to breathe with them in a certain pattern, and within minutes, everybody recovered, everybody gained their energy, everybody was settled in a different type of breathing, and we were able to hike this mountain for 5 hours without any incident, and everybody was fine. So to your point is important, and the lung capacity and your breathing capacity, it's true. In my case, and if you want to give us some examples, it's giving you energy, as you say, life force energy, ability to be clear, to think, and to be more professional, more proactive, and clarity.
Well, the basic principle is that it's easier to keep up than it is to catch up. And most people they're always trying to catch up. And it's even better if you can stay ahead of it. So you mentioned just hiking and walking. So, a very beautiful breathwork practice is to synchronize your breathing to your footsteps. Just breathe in rhythm to your footsteps so that you're staying ahead of the energy demand. Most people don't do it. You don't do anything about a problem until it's a problem. And so it's like, if you can be proactive, and breathing is a great way to be proactive, to prevent fatigue and prevent stress and prevent burnout and prevent illnesses and diseases and by staying ahead of it.
Oh, that's great. I have a question that I wasn't thinking about it before, but because you mentioned this, preparing for something, like for someone that is in the educational system, preparing courses, classes, I do the same thing, and I know you do that. How do you prepare when you know that you have an important exam or an important, what do you say to yourself, and how do you think, how important is this preparation, so to speak, in order to be successful?
We need a spirit, mind, body approach to life. And the breath represents the spirit part of us. The root of the word inspiration, expiration, respiration is spirit. So when you're playing with your breath, you are working with your spirit. There's in the Hebrew, there's a term, the breath within the breath. And that the breath is a source of energy, and learning to breathe energy, right? So, and staying ahead, not allowing tension to build up in our system. Just a sigh of relief. Ooh, I just vented a little bit of tension. I can stay clear. And so, I forgot your question.
How is the breathing patterns, techniques that you have, it's allowing anybody to be prepared for
preparing
work, a class,
right.
And
So we need to prepare spiritually, breathing. We need to prepare mentally, right? So what is your self-talk?
Yes.
What are you telling yourself?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think I can make it. I'm not sure I'll be able to do it. No, you don't want to be thinking those kind of things. I can do this. I can manage this. Positive self-talk is really important. Your internal language, the story you tell yourself, is great. That's part of the preparation of doing that. And emotional preparation, putting yourself into a beautiful state, imagining victory, thinking of things that give you pleasure, remembering a previous success, envisioning the outcome of what you're about to go into. So this is all, and this is elite preparation. Athletes do it, military people do it, corporate executives do it. It's a psychological method.
Yeah.
And when you involve emotions, so, think of, what makes you feel grateful? What makes you feel appreciation? You're putting yourself into a really beautiful state, and your creativity is better, your intuition is better.
Yeah.
So, we need a spirit, mind, body approach. And physiology, I have to take it. If I get in a depressed look on my face, I'm going to produce those kind of emotions.
Yeah.
So I have to lift myself up physically and take a powerful breath. And sure enough, my emotional state changes. My psychological state changes. So prepare as if you're preparing for something, that's really important. You want to show up. You don't want to be too, and you don't want to be too, So you balance your nervous system. How? Very practical. There's several techniques like coherent breathing. Breathe in for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds. Inhale 5 seconds. Exhale 5 seconds. Inhale 5. This balances your nervous system. When you inhale, you trigger the sympathetic branch of your nervous system. When you exhale, you activate the parasympathetic branch. So coherent breathing, something close to 5-6 breaths a minute. That would be a 10-second breathing cycle. So in 5 seconds, out 5 seconds. That puts you into really prime state.
Yes.
The other is box breathing, used by Navy SEALs and Special Forces. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. That's called box breathing or square breathing. High performers use that to prepare so they show up in a balanced, your nervous system is balanced, you're very aware, you're energized, plus you're relaxed. It triggers the flow state.
That's incredible.
It's a way to get into the zone so that then when you need to perform, you've prepared and you're in the flow, you're in the zone. And you do that by either coherent breathing or box breathing.
That's wonderful. What are the types of breathing there are that you'd like to share with people that are dear to you, or you recommend, or it works for you?
I'd like to look at the programs that we created for children, because whatever works for children works for adults. And we have 4, say, core breathing practices. One is developing breath awareness. You don't have to breathe in any special way. You're already breathing. Just gather your attention, gather your energy, and focus it on your breathing. And you just notice when the breath comes in, the feelings and sensations, and notice when the breath goes out. Focus on the tip of your nose and look for details. You might notice that the air is a little cooler coming in, a little warmer going out. So you're just noticing the breath. You don't have to breathe in any special way. And then bring your attention further into your nasal passages and into your sinuses and your skull. And see if you can sense the breath from that area. And then notice the breath when it comes through your throat. And feel the sensations in your throat. You're becoming mindful. You're becoming aware. And then feel the movement up under your collarbones. And then feel the movement in your chest, around your heart area. And your lower ribs, feel that expansion side to side. And feel the breath all the way down into your belly. Get the breath down into the floor of your pelvis. So it's like monitoring your breath, noticing every place the breath touches, the sounds, the feelings, the sensations, the movements. This is meditation. It's mindfulness practice. So that's the first core technique. And everybody, you can practice that anytime. Notice how you're breathing when you're stuck in traffic. Notice how you're breathing when you get angry. Notice how you're breathing when you're trying to enjoy music or solve a math problem. Most people don't pay attention to their breathing in those moments.
Yes.
But when you do, you change your experience. So that's a core technique. Breath awareness. Noticing your breath, tuning into your breath, becoming more aware of your breathing. The second is learning to use your breath to release tension, to release stress, to vent tension. And we use a sigh of relief for that. Exaggerate it. Make it dramatic. Make it theatrical. So a simple sigh of relief. Learn to use your breath to relax and to let go. Many of the problems we're trying to solve, maybe we just need to let them go, you know. And the building up of tension in your body blocks the flow of life force. It blocks your creative energy. So you use your exhale and you release muscles. When you exhale, relax your jaw. Most people are walking around grinding their teeth. And you exhale, release your shoulders. Yeah. And most people know where they carry tension. So you focus on that place, you breathe into that place, and then when you exhale, loosen and soften that place. So breathing for awareness, breathing for relaxation, and then breathing for energy. And there's so many cool breathing techniques you can do for breathing. I like, one of my favorites is what I call sniff and poo, because I like to work with kids and it's kind of fun. 2 sharp inhales and a sigh of relief. Yes. And wow, your energy just changes.
Yeah.
So you need to learn how to breathe to energize. When you're tired, when there's this fatigue, but you still have work to do, you got to be able to generate energy with your breath. It's a beautiful life skill to be able to generate energy with your breath. And we do cool stuff with kids, you know, with the wood chopper breath. Imagine you got an axe and you're chopping wood. That's really great for like releasing anger.
Yes.
And it's a fun way. We do like Tarzan breath. Oh, and that makes a long exhale. Kids love it. And it's good for adults too, to like loosen up, you know, get a little playful with yourself. Don't be so uptight.
Yes.
And so we make, when we work with kids, we need to make games out of it. Blow bubbles, you know, blow up balloons. Whistling, you know, a nice calming breath is it's like I call it the shushing breath. I can remember in church as a kid, and the adult goes shh, 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 and that means be quiet. Mm-hmm. So you take a long exhale, this shushing, shh, and it immediately calms you down. So, you know, you want to help children to calm themselves down, use that shushing breath. Mm-hmm. You know, after, 2 hours after lunch, they have this crash, this sugar crash. Just like a minute or so of that breathing, and you're energized again. And people can feel it. If you practice it, you don't need to take my word for it. You don't need to believe anything. Yes. If you're aware of your energy and you practice a breathing technique, you're going to feel the difference.
That's true. Well, Dan, thank you so much. This is, besides learning a few of those techniques, I think what I understood from you today is the fact that we need to be a very good observer of ourselves, of the way that we breathe, not to take for granted that we already breathe, but to pay attention, and to use this little simple breath to enhance our lifestyle and our relationship with those around us, that they are parents, friends, family, children, or people that we work with.
That's contagious, right?
Yes,
so
it's contagious.
if you're relaxed, people around you relax. If you're nervous, people get nervous.
Yes.
And if you take conscious breaths and people hear you, it reminds them to take a breath.
Yes, and also what I understood from you, and I think our audience would like to, it's an interesting point, we are mimicking each other. We are looking up to somebody, children look up to the teachers, to the parents, or we in life look up to someone else that we want to learn from. And it's important what example we give to those around us that may be mimicking us. So that is a very important thing that I learned from you today.
And you know, there's two main, let's say, rules about breathing, general rules. Breathe through your nose. The nose, you know, mouth breathing, you know, it can become a habit, and that's a really terrible habit to have. So consciously breathe through your nose and breathe into your belly. And make sure that that's an unconscious habit. If you have a habit of breathing in your chest all the time, you need to slow your breathing down, get your breath into your belly. And if you have a habit of breathing through your mouth, you need to tape your mouth closed, do whatever you need to do to make sure that your unconscious habit is to breathe through your nose. And you're going to prevent and avoid so many problems in life just by engaging in those two basic rules of breathing. Breathe through your nose and breathe into your belly.
That's wonderful, Dan. Thank you so much for this opportunity to have this talk with you today. And to our audience, I would like to say thank you very much for following this program. And we really hope that it helps you and you can take from here the best advice that Dan Brulé, a wonderful coach of breath work, can give you at this moment in time. Thank you so much.